for work, and I was really stressed out. I was kind of venting to a buddy of mine. I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I got this, I got all these bills and whatnot. And he's like, man, and this is almost verbatim what he said. He's like, man, you should talk to my brother about this roofing thing. That's what he said, this roofing thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not really specific, but okay.
Now, I just want to know, what is the definition of a good team to you?
A good team to me is a group of people, mission focused, that communicate well and are willing to help each other even when it's not. It may not be as convenient as just doing their own thing.
I think most people have this anxiety that if I press the record button, I will stumble on my words. And I believe that if you think in your mind, like, I just have to tell a story, everything is a story. You and I are sitting here, we are creating a story as well. You go to an inspection and you see something there, that is a story as well.
Look, it's not going to be perfect, and if it is perfect, well, congratulations. But the reality is kind of what you said, that people, I wouldn't say that they like it necessarily, but they resonate with it. It's like, it's authentic. It's coming from you. It's not something that you worked up the script the night before and you memorized it.
What are the things that you feel can still be improved in RCAT, and how are you guys doing that?
We have definitely, as an organization, we've definitely had some missed opportunities to do housekeeping per se, where a situation arose and somebody that was in leadership, their company was caught in the cookie jar. They were kind of doing something a little bit dicey, and we had an opportunity to take action.
Because I can feel that you are the guy who tells about the issue, and you are not soft spoken. Like, you tell that this is the thing that we have to deal with. So do you face any pushback in the organization or in your personal life as well because of this habit?
Definitely within the a little bit within the organization. I mean, everybody's great. I mean, I love everybody that's part of it. But, that's not to say that there haven't been, awkward moments on conference calls where I'm just like, what are we talking about here, guys?
Yes, on December 4th, 2024, you made a post that you received a phone call from someone that your daughter just had an accident and her car was crashed. And you mentioned that this was the hardest 10-second phone call that you ever encountered with, or that you ever received.
Obviously the car's totaled, but cars can be fixed and replaced, but body parts and lives are different.
So yes. Do you feel that at times we just surround ourselves with too many things and we forget that the business can be fixed, the cars can be fixed, the mess at workplace can be fixed, but the stuff at home, the relationships and the relationships with our loved ones, that cannot be fixed if we don't have the chance.
What's funny is that, as you're mentioning that, my wife and I kind of came to this realization. Since we work together, we're in the business together, we're at home together. So because we're together, all the time, we have stopped making time for us outside of the house and outside of the business simultaneously.
So my last question to you is, you went to Nepal a few months back, I guess, and you were hiking there. What was that experience?
Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Roofing Millionaires podcast, the only roofing podcast where we don't promote anyone and we don't sell you anything. In this episode, we are sitting down with Mike Eyman, who is the founder of Nimble Restoration and the Vice President of Roofing Contractor Association of Texas. Mike shares how he started his roofing company after the housing crash of 2008 and how he became part of organizations like RCAT to bring even more value to the roofing community. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want us to bring more roofing experts like this on the show who can inspire you to be a better person and achieve even more success. Let's dive in.
Good morning, Mike. Welcome to the Roofing Millionaires podcast. How are you feeling today and what's going on in your life these days?
Well, I'm doing good, man. Obviously we got past the little scheduling, issue this morning, but things are good, man. I'm taking a kind of a lighter day than I have been. I've got 3 trainees simultaneously on right now, so it leaves me very little time to hone in on my personal clients and whatnot. So I'm going to take a day and make sure that we're good to go. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So I have done a little research about you, but just for the audience to have a context about who you are and what you do, I want to ask you, can you just briefly explain like how was your childhood and what made you enter in the roofing industry and how was that experience? So just can you give me an overview of your life since your childhood till today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I was actually born in the Northeast. Ended up moving down here as a teenager. Getting into the roofing business was kind of a out of necessity type situation. You know, I was a single dad at the time. I was working at a business that was created basically to fill a void in the real estate industry. So they didn't really know what they were doing, and they started paying me less for more work, and I was really stressed out. I was kind of venting to a buddy of mine. I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I got this, you know, I got all these bills and whatnot. And he's like, man, and this is almost verbatim what he said. He's like, man, you should talk to my brother about this roofing thing. That's what he said, this roofing thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not really specific, but okay. So yeah, I talked to his brother, and it's a roofing sales job. So I started in back in around 2011, and I just hit the ground running, man. It's something I really enjoy doing. I mean, the scenery changes every day. I'm talking to different people with different stories, and I'm able to kind of see before and afters. I really love the before and afters. I mean, obviously residential roofing is great, but obviously, if you've seen any of my stuff, we're doing quite a bit of fluid applied restoration, so commercial restorations, and I love those things. So that's really how I got into it, man. And things have kind of progressed. I started my brand. I don't know. I can't remember what year it was, but my Roofologist brand basically was to just make some videos and have some fun and educate folks on what to look for and questions to ask, and basically avoiding, problematic roofing contractors, because here in Texas, unlike all of the states that touch us, there's no licensing, there's no registration. I mean, it's, for all intents and purposes, the Wild West, But that's pretty much where we're at right now. I enjoy what I do. I work alongside my wife, and we run the business together. My son works in the business. My daughter works in the business. I just hired my, not really my nephew, but my daughter's cousin. I just hired him. So his first day was Monday. And so, yeah, man, things are good, man.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with me. And I think that this gives me a context on how to shape this conversation. So before we move forward, I want to ask you, what were you doing before 2011? Like you said that you were into real estate. So what were you doing before that?
So this was in the wake of the housing market. And so a lot of houses were getting foreclosed on, and there's just a lot of turmoil going on. And I was working for a company called DSE Properties that basically was contracted out by banks to go and do either trash outs, which is basically where somebody has trashed the house and we're trying to get it able to be put back on the market, or we're doing occupancy inspections. So essentially we would go by, if it's in foreclosure, we can't really make contact with anybody because there's law, there's a court system and it's going through that. But basically we would, check to see if the electricity's on, see if the water's on, see if there's patio furniture in the backyard, basically indicators that would, lead us to believe that somebody's actually still living there and it's not been completely abandoned, where we could go in later and remove everything, clean it up, put a nice paint job on it, keep it moving, and get it back for sale. They didn't really know what they were doing, so they were taking losses, and ultimately those losses were recovered by kind of screwing the employees on pay. And I was just, it was kind of a stressful time, but it landed me where I'm at now. So I mean, I'm not too upset about it. It is what it is.
And is Nimble Restoration, that's the company that you founded, I guess?
Right. Yeah, with my wife. Yeah. So we work for a couple different companies, or I did. Well, Shannon did towards the end. I worked for a couple different companies, built up, what I would say is a good knowledge of the business and, best practices. And then my wife was working corporate. I convinced her to quit her job and kind of work alongside me. And then, there was just some stuff unfolded that just made it clear to us that we needed to start our own thing. That way we could kind of have control over the vision and the execution and all that stuff. And so that's what we did.
Perfect. And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask about RCAT, but we will come back to that later on. You just mentioned that you are working with your daughter, your son, and you have also hired your daughter's cousin, and he has
Mhm.
just joined on Monday. How is it going? Like most people say that you don't have to work with family and there are no boundaries, but you are creating a community or a team that is based like on your family. So how is that
Yeah,
experience?
yeah.
And
I
yeah.
mean, I do realize that there's kind of a fine line, you know. I worked with my brother at one point in time, and that didn't work out. I won't go into details, but that just didn't work out. You know, my kids working in the business, however, you know, I think that, you know, even though my daughter's only 17, she's going to go off to college here next year. I still think that they realize that this is, you know, for the betterment of their situation, because my daughter still lives with us. And so the better the business does, the better the house does. You know, my oldest son doesn't live with us, but, you know, he understands that, you know, this is kind of a legacy thing. You know, there's a scenario that could potentially play out where, you know, we want to take a, hey, you know, we built this thing, we want to take a back seat, you know, and let somebody kind of run it, and he may be stepping up to the plate for that. So I think he sees the vision. Plus, you know, my son's been doing this with me for, I mean, hell, 10 years or so, something like that. I mean, he's been climbing on roofs, doing repairs. And so now he's our production manager and lead repair technician. So he goes out and does repairs. So instead of subcontracting that out, we actually do that in-house, which I love. So
I agree with you on that we have to draw boundaries. And I think that if I am working with my younger brother, just as you said, I will tell him that this is the business that is putting food on our table. And if I'm hiring you and you will mess that up, there is no chance that we will be able to put the food on the table again. So you have to draw boundaries. And even if I am messing up, you can just tell me straight away that you are messing up, and I will just draw myself from that business as well. I don't want you to dwell deep into what happened with your brother. I know it's personal, but let's just say someone is in that scenario and they have created these circle around themselves, like they have hired people who shouldn't be around there. So how do they do it, and how do they keep the relationships alive as well, by setting boundaries as well, or by just letting those people go?
yeah, so I mean, again, without going into too much detail, the deal with my brother had to do with addiction. And so my advice to really anybody that is thinking about bringing a family member into the business that is struggling with any sort of addiction, it's most likely not going to go a good direction. It's just, you know, I mean, you're dealing with somebody that's not themselves under the influence of different substances, and you know, you can go into this with the best laid plans and good faith and everything like that. And, you know, addiction's addiction, man. I mean, I don't suffer from it, so I can't really necessarily relate. But I mean, I've heard tons of stories. I mean, it's pretty rampant. So, you know, if you're a proprietor and you're looking to bring in a family member, and there is that facet of their life, you know, I would tread softly, because, you know, it's just sometimes it rears its ugly head, and you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with your reputation. You know, I mean, there was money taken. There was just, you know, it's a lot. And so we just had to cut ties. And I mean, it sucks, but, you know, I had to do it because, you know, my family is how I put food on my table, just like you said. And so I can't have that. And especially when we're dealing with a reputation, you know, we have a great reputation here, and I don't want to tarnish that just because I'm trying to be the good guy for you know, my brother that can't really, you know, handle certain aspects of his life, you know. So
Thank you for telling that. I think that, like, I feel that there are two kinds of people. First is like us, like we are the good guys, and I will say that we are the sensitive guys. And then there are the tough guys out there. We have this tendency that we feel that we can fix anyone. Like if we will give more work to them, even if they are our brother or our friends or someone, and they are doing something bad, we feel that, okay, if we give them more responsibilities, we will fix their lives. But I think that I have realized this, that if someone does not want to change their own life, we cannot do that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I tell the guys all the time, you know, I'll give you, like my new guys, I'm like, look, I'll give you all the knowledge and the tools to go out and make, you know, 6 figures. But like, you know, like the old adage says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I mean, you can't make anybody do something. And I tell the guys, I'm like, I can't want it more than you do. So if you're not like all in, well then, I'm going to take a step back and kind of let you reevaluate that and whatever. So, I mean, luckily I got a good team now and we're growing and it's a good time. It's a good time.
Okay. And speaking of good team, you have mentioned our brand before as well. I want to ask you, what is your definition of a brand? I'll ask that later. Right now, I just want to know, what is the definition of a good team to you?
A good what?
A good team.
A good team.
Yeah.
A good team to me is a group of people mission focused that, communicate well and are willing to help each other even when it's not it may not be as convenient as just doing their own thing. I think that's how, the camaraderie is built. I think that, if it's a situation where, one of my guys is double booked for some reason and, he can make a call or put it out on our team chat and be like, hey, I need this covered. Is there anybody that's going to be in the vicinity? And then one of the guys, pops up, hey man, I got that for you. I mean, I think that is the truest definition of a team. People working together, for a common goal. Even if that common goal, we're not splitting deals just because you help on something. I'm not saying, hey, well, you got to split this with this guy now, because it comes full circle. Like, you're helping this person now, but later on down the road, you're going to be the one that needs help, and other people are going to help you.
Amazing. And I read a book, Good to Great by Jim Collins, and in which he said that you just need disciplined thought, disciplined people, and disciplined action in order to make a great company. Speaking of that, you have been part of RCAT as well, and I know you deal with a lot of roofing companies. You have been part of this industry for almost 15 years now. So where did you learn that from? Because most people struggle to find good people. So how did you fix that part?
As far as my hiring process, or as far as,
yes.
Just with
RCAT? How did you realize that these are the kind of people that I have to look for?
Well, part of the reason that I left my last company, which was, it's a nationally ranked company. They do a lot of production, was that I'm more of a relationship oriented guy and less transaction. Obviously, I thrive off transactions because that's what pays the bills. It keeps checks coming in. But my mindset is more of a long game play. So I instill in my guys like, hey, you give it to our clients honest. If you go out there and there's not damage, you tell them there's not damage. If there is damage, let them know. But I think that, telling people that they don't have damage, while it doesn't make us any money, it builds a fan. Like you now have somebody that says, hey, you know what, that guy Mike, he came out, he could have told me that I needed a new roof because I got this other roofer telling me I need a new roof, but instead he told me, you know what, I don't think you have enough damage to warrant filing a claim. I think you should just kind of hold off. We can seal around these certain areas, get you down the road a little bit, and then when you do have another storm, give me a call. I'd love to reevaluate. And so I think that level of honesty and integrity, so to speak, it just speaks volumes. And long game play, that's where it's at. I think in short answer is I'm more of a relationship guy. I want to have that type of team in play. And really, when I was talking about earlier about people helping each other and everything like that, I think that those go hand in hand.
And I was listening to one of your interviews at RCAT, and where you said that most homeowners, they are not educated and they don't have the knowledge, and that's why the contractors who want to eat deductibles or who want to mess up with that, they take advantage of that as well. And I listened to that complete interview. I know a lot of roofers in Texas, so that raised a question in me that RCAT is doing great stuff, but I feel that what you have just said, that most people are not honest. So I also feel that roofers are educating people, but they are using their own terms. And if we are not providing information to the homeowners in the easiest possible way or in a way that they understand, I think we are not helping them much. So what are your thoughts on that? Because we cannot fix someone who is dishonest. They will be like that forever. But we can play our roles better.
Yeah. Well, so the whole brand of mine was built around doing videos. And so I think that, what they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, I don't know what that equates to in video, but like walking around a roof and showing people like, hey, this is what not to do. This is what to look out for right here. I think that, that's helped me build the brand that I have and some the so to speak recognition that I have is because I see a lot. I taught a class here, I don't know, about a month ago on social media, lead generation, and I was like, some of these guys are out there and they're taking video of their neck beard from down here and talking about the weather, and they're saying nothing really of substance. And so look, I think if you're, homeowners don't know what they don't know, but if you're taking video and you're showing your work, I think it also builds a level of trust, because I think that most people would look at a video like that and say, well, if he was a dirtbag and he was trying to cut corners and stuff, like, he wouldn't show his work. Like, who would do that? And obviously, look, I'm not saying that there aren't guys out there that do kind of, show some video, and on the back end, it's a two-faced kind of situation, or two-headed snake. But yeah, that's how I built my brand. I do a bunch of video. I don't do near as much video as I used to. Simply because I'm doing my very best to work on the business as opposed to in the business. Like I said earlier, I've got 3 trainees. I'm really trying to hone in and just dial those guys in, and so that we can be an effective team all together and just make a bunch of money, at the end of the day.
Thank you. And I feel that most roofers, they understand that they have to create videos. And since you have created your own brand, I think you are the right person to give them tips on this, because I feel that most guys, what they are doing is that they are just creating random videos of their projects without any voiceover, without any information or tips. And even if those videos get views, but they don't deliver any value to the homeowner. So what are the tips roofers should keep in mind when creating videos?
Well, first and foremost, kind of like what I said earlier, have something to say. I'm definitely not trying to, tell people that everything has to be scripted, heavily scripted, or anything like that. But, some of these guys that get up on the roof and they're like talking about the weather, or some relatively inconsequential, tidbit of information. And I would just say regular posting, because, if you'd have caught me up, I don't know, a few years ago, I was doing a lot more consistent posting than I am now. I still post, and, it's just to keep fresh content going out. That way, when people go to my page, it doesn't look like it's been a barren wasteland since 2024. But, I would say the hardest part for most contractors is to actually press the record button and start talking. It's kind of getting over that anxiety of like, well, what if I stumble on my words? What if I don't say anything? Like, look, man, it's not gonna be, error proof or error free all the time. I prefer to have my stuff a little bit more polished, for sure. But, people, it's authentic. Like, if you go out there and you stumble a little bit, oh yeah, you make a little joke about, calling something out that's wrong. I think it gives you a level of authenticity than just doing a polished video that's obviously been in post-production. And that's what I would say. Turn on the camera, make sure you have something to say, and just be authentic and informative, and help the client with something. Not just talking about, look at this roof I did. Okay, that's great, man. Hey, I'm all about it. But give value, because nobody cares. They look cool, man. I do the before and afters too. I love it. But that's not offering any value. Other than just showing, hey, look, this is what we can do. But with those videos that I post, hundreds of other roofers in my market are posting the exact same video of different houses. So I post those just kind of as, keeping regular content going out, but posting the stuff where I'm showcasing certain things like, hey, if you see this on your house, that's a red flag. If you see this on your house, this is good, so on and so forth.
And you are right about that, actually, that most people have this anxiety that if I press the record button, I will stumble on my words. And I believe that if you think in your mind, like, I just have to tell a story, everything is a story. You and I are sitting here, we are creating a story as well. You go to an inspection and you see something there, that is a story as well. So if you just feel that I have to tell a story to my viewers or to anyone, and this doesn't need to be scripted, or this doesn't need to be perfect, because people do not like perfection. They like purity. And if you are pure and if you are sharing the right stories, you are creating your brand eventually.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Like I said, in the class that I taught about a month ago, I even mentioned, I'm like, look, it's not going to be perfect. And if it is perfect, well, congratulations. But the reality is kind of what you said, you know, that people, I wouldn't say that they like it necessarily, but they resonate with it. It's like, it's authentic. It's coming from you. It's not something that you worked up the script the night before and you memorized it. You know, you're saying it off the cuff. And I do some production level, you know, videos, mainly long form for YouTube. I'll do like a couple product reviews and stuff like that. But for the most of my stuff is just in the field. I'll turn on the camera. I'm like, all right, guys, hey, I'm out here in Dallas today. This is what I got going on. Here's the situation, and here's, you know, what you should look out for as a homeowner, and so on and so forth. You know, I mean, like, it just, at the end of the day, it's helping folks. You know, helping folks. It builds trust, and you know, and it's not unfounded. You know, I aim to do the very best we can. Obviously, not every project's going to go smoothly, but I think it's how you respond to those issues that really, you know, that's where the rubber meets the road. So. And
I read somewhere that if something is worth doing, then it is worth doing ugly as well instead of not doing it. I will leave that here. You also mentioned about creating brand. So what is your definition of brand, and how did you create yours, like Roofologist? I think that it gives me a vibe that you are not calling yourself an expert roofer, a roofing professional. Like when we talk about bio, we talk about biologist. When we talk about physics, we talk about physicist. And when we talk about roof, you are calling yourself roofologist. So that doesn't give a sales vibe. That just gives a vibe that someone is deeply interested in knowing about roofing. So that's why he's calling himself roofologist.
Yeah. So okay. So to answer your question, you know, my brand really originated just because I was getting kind of sick and tired of just hearing the negative stories about roofers, you know, people in my industry that had taken advantage of other people. You know, over the course of, you know, my earlier years, I was just, you know, little old ladies that have been taken, you know, for a ride, you know, their insurance money taken, or they think that they got this great roof, and then you get up there and it's like put together with bubble gum and tape. And so I started doing these videos where I would call out what I call the janky roofer, which is essentially just some guy that's going to come in, you know, roll into town, do a bunch of, you know, nonsense, either take money or do shoddy work, and then keep it moving. You know, kind of like the guys that you risk, you know, when you're hiring them off Facebook Marketplace. You know, it could be good, but they could be bad too, and you know, that's just a risk you take. But you know, that's really where that started. And you know, I mean, honestly, the name started off as kind of a joke. I can't even remember exactly who it was that said that, but it was like something ologist, and I was like, wait. And so I kind of ran with it. And initially it was a joke. And then I was doing a bunch of work with realtors, and I would do these networking events, and, you know, they would see me, hey, my name's Mike, I'm your roofologist, da, 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 da. And they're like, man, I love it. I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of one of those things where it started off as kind of like a ha-ha funny moment, and it turned into a brand because I was just backing it up with, you know, educational content, or, you know, as educational as I could, you know, basically showcasing the good, bad, and the ugly.
Okay. So what has been the impact of your brand so far?
I mean, okay. So yeah, I mean, my phone rings now. I don't have to do near as much outbound stuff. I mean, of course, I've been in the business for long enough. I really shouldn't have to do a bunch of outbound stuff now. But, and this is what, you know, the kind of what I tell my guys. I'm like, hey, get into video. Obviously, you know, when you first get in the business, you know, it's door knocking, it's networking, B2B networking, it's, you know, building a referral base, you know, getting with referral partners, you know, doing social media. But I said, look, you know, the long-term goal here is to have people call you because you're a trusted name that they can rely upon. And so that's where I'm trying to get my guys. You know, I have some of my guys that are picking up some traction doing that, but I mean, I've got some new guys, and some new guys. And so we're starting from the ground up. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I tell my guys, make sure, like I said previously, have something to say, and be consistent, you know, 2 to 3 times a week, post something roofing related. I'm not saying you got to dump on your feed all things roofing all the time. You know, I post stuff about my family. I post stuff about, you know, whatever we're doing because that brings a human element to it. It's not like I'm trying to drive something down your throat all the time, like roofing. Hey, look, man, I'm a person. I'm a dad. I'm a proud father. I work alongside my wife. She's my best friend. I love it. And I want people to know who I am outside of just this roofologist, persona.
And I agree. And I feel that a brand is like someone, a homeowner picks you, like they say that I want to work with this roofer instead of any other roofer. And if you offer them something, you have a group of people who raise their hands and they say that I want this, and you deliver value to them. And if you have that bunch of people, I think you have a brand as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I think everybody in the industry now, or a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people are striving to kind of create that. I mean, I'm seeing more and more educational style videos, which I'm all about. I mean, at the end of the day, I have an abundance mentality, so I'm not like, oh, look at this guy, he's doing a similar content as me. I don't care about any of that, because at the end of the day, I think that the people that are showing their work are just generally speaking more trustworthy to the clients. And if they're offering value, well, then that's only a net positive, especially with me being so active in RCAT. There's no licensing or registration in Texas at all. There's a voluntary license through RCAT, but ultimately what this means is that you can kind of do whatever you want and close down your business and reopen another business with a new name for $50 roundabout, with no insurance requirement or anything like that. So I mean, it's kind of a scary thought when you think about it. In my state, people that cut hair, do nails, all that stuff have to be licensed, and those things grow back. It's just it's kind of wild to me. But as vice president of RCAT, we've pushed for an actual license to be implemented, because we feel that the trade is important enough to warrant that. I'm the type of guy, I don't necessarily want the government in my business, but I'm also a realist in that continuing down the same road that we've been down, where people are consistently getting screwed over, having their money taken, having shoddy work done on their homes, the move is not to do nothing. It's to find some sort of avenue that works. And obviously the people that are opposed to any sort of licensing are the same guys that have the crap reviews, and they just want to, hey, I want to do the status quo. I don't want any kind of regulation, because that would prevent me from screwing around people and doing shoddy work, and then I would be held accountable. So the people that don't want the license are the same people that don't want the accountability. And so it's, it is what it is. It's kind of one of those things where I am confident that eventually here in Texas there will be an implemented license, and I welcome it. I'm not trying to keep anybody out of business. I'm not trying to create such a barrier of entry that that business that entrepreneurship is stifled. But I'm also like, hey, the move is not to do nothing, and sit around like, well, I guess we just shouldn't do anything. 40 some odd states in the United States have some sort of roofing license, and we over here in Texas, big old Lone Star State, we're like, nah, we don't need all that. We just let our people get screwed over. Like, so, I'm definitely passionate about that. I talk to roofers all the time that are in opposition, either pro and against. And, we have some great conversations. Some of these guys are good buddies of mine, and they're just like, well, I'm not really on board with it because of this. And no organization like this is going to be perfect, yes. But at the end of the day, our heart's in the right place, and we genuinely want to do the right thing by not just our contractor base, but by the homeowners. We want to help educate the homeowners on like what this looks like, because I can't tell you how many times I've run into homeowners and they're like, what do you mean there's no license? I'm like, yeah, there's no license. I mean, the pizza delivery guy from last week that was dropping off your Domino's pizza, yeah, he could very well be a roofing company owner this week. I mean, it just, so, helping those people understand that, hey, this is the situation that you're in, right? This is the environment that we're in right now, so that they can make better decisions. I mean, that's really at the end of the day what we're trying to do. That, and help educate not only the clients, but we hold lunch and learns for contractors, basically help them, understand different types of substrates, different types of roofing systems, how to apply best practices, all the things. So that's what we're doing.
I think that you answered that perfectly, and I agree with you that I don't want the government in my business, but I do want regulation, because if there are no regulations, the bad guys, they will come and they will start to hurt the industry overall. And I agree with you on that. And the same thing is with AI as well. Like right now, we don't have any regulations, and we are just seeing that people are mocking videos of the government officials or even the presidents, and that is something that can cause a lot of harm. I agree with you on that, but one question that I have is that I know that there is no license requirement in Texas, but I don't know why is that, like why there is no license requirement for roofers in Texas.
Yeah, so I mean, there's opposition to any sort of licensing, and like I said, hold on, there's opposition, and basically a lot of the opposition is that it will disenfranchise migrant workers, right? So I mean, look, it's no secret that the vast majority of our installers are Hispanic. We're a border state, stands to reason. But these are kind of ridiculous arguments at the end of the day, because I mean we've poked holes in all this, because the licensing that we're trying to push, which actually fell off the calendar, there was no immediate threat of pushback. It made it out of committee. It just didn't make it to the floor of the Capitol because of just how the government works. It's on the calendar, and if you don't get to it, it's on the calendar. Then it goes to the next session, which is in 2 years. But a lot of it is the argument of disenfranchising migrant workers. And then, the other opposition is basically from the guys that I mentioned earlier that are just, they don't want accountability because, well, hold on, man, that's going to affect my business. Then I can't, I actually watched the committee meeting. I wasn't actually able to be present, but in the committee meeting where like you're basically, stating your opposition in front of government officials, a lot of these guys got up there and said, yeah, we should be able to give our clients deals. I'm like, deals? I'm like, nobody's saying you can't give your clients deals, but the way you say that sure makes it sound like you're doing something seedy, because nowhere in any of the proposed documentation or documents have we said, hey, you can't offer any kind of deals. No, a deal to them is like, hey, we want to be able to cover deductibles. We want to be able to do, some kind of manipulating of the numbers. And like, one of the main guys, I won't give him, the airtime to mention his name, but he's one of the main leaders of this opposition, and he runs a roofing company. And if you go to his reviews, they're trash. I mean, some of the most egregious screwing over of clients that I've seen. And it's kind of wild to me that the opposition has, because if he had a clean record and everything was like squeaky clean, high ratings or whatever, I'd be like, well, I mean, I still disagree with you, but at least you're not coming from a place where you don't want it because it would hold you to a higher standard, because that's what's going on here. They don't want it because they want to be able to kind of, no guardrails, just kind of do what they do, and because there's no accountability. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're going to eventually get this, man. We're determined.
I hope so. And I feel that, like, if someone, you are saying that they have a lot of bad reviews, I think that if someone does due diligence and they go to their profile, they see the bad reviews, they will never hire XYZ roofer or whoever he is. But what they do to get work is that they create fear. Like whenever a storm hits, they just pop up at your door, and now they will create fear and tension in you that you have to sign the contract right now or something's big gonna happen. And most of their work is grabbed through fear. So the question is, do you think that RCAT is doing something to stop this and to educate homeowners in that perspective? Like if someone shows up at your door and you had a storm last night and they are creating fear in you, and fear is something that drives action in humans at times, and they take advantage of that. So do you feel that RCAT is doing something to handle that part as well, so these guys don't get any more work?
So, I mean, yes and no. I mean, RCAT is kind of bound, because, we represent not only roofing contractors, but we're trying to also get information out to the general public so the general consumer can be better educated and make better decisions. But at the end of the day, we're not trying to alienate our own client base or our contractor base. And so I think that, like, a good, for instance, as you were mentioning, door to door. Well, we don't necessarily want to go and start trashing guys that are going door to door. I definitely don't, back any guys that are using fear to close a deal. But we also, it's kind of a slippery slope. We don't want to go after, people that, have part of their business is generated through door to door. I mean, that's fine. I mean, a lot of residents don't like it. It's annoying, especially after a storm when you got 40 people knocking on your door per week or maybe more. But as far as the education piece, absolutely. I mean, we're definitely putting out lots of content. We actually use a marketing firm that has a really good name around here, Roofers Going Digital, and they're putting out content all the time. And so on top of RCAT, there's several regional chapters that are also doing work and education in their specific market. Like HARCA is Houston. We have NTRCA, which is North Texas, and then we have, Central Texas has theirs, East Texas, so on and so forth. So, I mean, we're doing everything we can to educate folks, but without crossing that line of saying, hey, we're going to trash these guys. But we're also I feel that we're trying to instill best practices in our contractor base. You can't make everybody just this awesome, roofing contractor. I mean, obviously there's a situation where even though we do require insurance, we have to make sure you background check, we do multiple testing, you have to be sponsored by an existing member. Even though we do all those things to create those guardrails per se, I mean, it's not to say that some guy that doesn't mean well and is only joining for the actual, certificate or the stamp. I mean, it's going to happen, but at the end of the day, I truly believe that after talking, being involved in RCAT for as long as I have, that, the majority of the people that are member base and especially in leadership like myself genuinely want to do the right thing. We want to uplift and do right by the industry and make it a better place.
Amazing. And I feel that there is a lot of work that needs to be done, but we are heading towards that, and slowly and steadily we'll make progress, and I hope one day it all gets sorted out. Speaking of that, you are a member of RCAT as well, and you are the vice president. So I would ask you, what are the things, because I feel that RCAT is doing a lot of great stuff out there, like in terms of content. You have your YouTube channel, on social media you are putting content and nice videos, the red flags and everything every single week. So that is a good thing. But what are the things that you feel can still be improved in RCAT, and how are you guys doing that?
100%, man. Okay, so I'm sure I'm going to get possibly a little bit of hate from perhaps some other people at RCAT, but we have definitely, as an organization, we've definitely had some missed opportunities to do housekeeping per se, where a situation arose and somebody that was in leadership, their company was caught in the cookie jar. They were kind of doing something a little bit dicey, and we had an opportunity to take action, whether that be, kicking them out or putting them on some sort of probation or something like that. And, obviously as an organization, there's stuff that even before I was vice president, that was just higher level, and there's legality in it. Obviously the last thing the organization wants to do is get sued, because we live in a very litigious time where, I mean, people are suing people for coffee being too hot, and it's just ridiculous. So obviously, we're not trying to, fight litigation all the time because some guy got his feelings hurt because he got, slapped on the wrist or kicked out or whatever. But I say that to just bring to light that, in my eyes, and this is something I've voiced to leadership, as well, that, I think that a lot of what we are dealing with is an image issue, and that's specifically with contractors. It's not so much with homeowners. We're dealing with an image issue, because while there are some that are like, yes, go RCAT, we're they're doing good work, they're doing their best as much as an organization like us can do to make our industry a better place. There are obviously, and some of these guys are friends of mine, so I have good conversations with them. Sometimes they get a little heated, but it's not a bad place. It's just more passion talking than anything. Is that, they bring to light that, hey, look, you guys had an opportunity to this person, again, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus here, but you guys had this opportunity. This person was covering deductibles, and they had a document internal that says, hey, we'll cover your deductible. Well, that's illegal. And so I'll be the first to admit that, we've had some opportunities where, we could have done more to salvage that image to the naysayers, so to speak. And, we've missed a couple for sure. But I don't think that takes away from the overall mission of what we're doing, and that we're genuinely trying to do the right thing by our industry. Again, those things aside, I'm not a super big fan of those missed opportunities, because I have conversations with contractors all the time about RCAT and about them joining. I've sponsored, dozens. I don't even know how many people, but yeah, that's what it is. It's an accountability thing. And I'm all about accountability, because I strive every day to do the right thing. So I have no problem with accountability. It's only the people that are trying to fly it under the radar, in my opinion anyway, that don't want accountability. They want to be able to kind of just, free reign to do whatever they want. And if that thing happens to be illegal, well, you know what? I don't know. So I'm just, I'm just doing this. I took on the VP role. I was invited to become a nominee, or I was nominated, whatever. I think that's probably the only sticking point for me, because again, at the end of the day, I think the mission's there. I think we just have to take advantage of some of these opportunities to show people that we're not just a pay to play situation. Yes, you do pay, and yes, you do have to pay to play. But the reality is that all the things that come in with that, the education pieces, the outreach, the conferences where new guys can come in and learn. Just like drink from the fire hose as far as knowledge. I think that ultimately, offsets that a little bit in helping, contractors be better contractors and better serve the community. And that's what it is.
Thank you for answering that, and thank you for being honest as well. I don't want to run into organizational politics, so I will leave that here. I had the next question of mine was that you somewhere answered in your previous answer as well, that as an organization like RCAT, you have to keep the people, the general public and the contractor, you have to keep both of them in confidence in order to be an organization that is trusted by the homeowners and by the roofers as well. So how do you guys make sure that this happens almost all the time? Or what is the process? Like you just mentioned that accountability is somewhere missing. So do you guys have any process or something like that internally? Like I want to know about the internal operations. Like how do you guys make sure that we keep the homeowners and the roofers or the contractors in confidence that we are trustworthy?
Yeah. So from a homeowner standpoint, I don't think there's any lack of confidence. I think that when it comes to the homeowners, I think it's more of awareness, because as I mentioned previously, tons of homeowners that I interact with, they're like, what do you mean there's no license? What do you mean there's no any sort of regulations or guardrails? I'm like, yeah. And then I kind of go into the spiel. So I don't think it's a lack of anything other than just they don't know. It's kind of like what they say, you don't know what you don't know. And so educating those clients. As far as the contractors and our base, I think that this is just an ever evolving thing. I'm a very outspoken guy to the point where, sometimes I create awkward conversations because I'm like, this is not what we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about this over here. We're talking about just stuff that is, in my opinion, inconsequential in the broad scheme of things, when we have what I would argue is an image issue, and I want to salvage that image because I know what we're trying to do. And look, I'm a realist. I understand that you're not going to please everybody. And I go into that with that realistic mentality. But that being said, it's hard. It's hard to talk to a roofing contractor that is thinking about joining RCAT when, the almost uniform pushback is that, like, well, it's just pay to play. You pay your money and, you're a member. And I'm like, sort of, man. There's obviously more to that. You have to supply documentation. You have to test out. You have to be sponsored, all the things. You have to be in business a certain amount of years. But it's hard because when they bring up the very accurate. They're not wrong that, like, hey, there are guys that are in leadership or in the organization that, have been accused of this. And the only thing I can tell them to that is that, we have to be able to prove whatever the accusation is definitively. And we're not detectives. Like we can't do Chris Hansen, to catch a bad roofer kind of situation. And so it kind of puts us in a bit of a spot because some of the stuff that, these missed opportunities, I feel like the evidence was pretty profound, but we rely on the BBB a lot because they're an organization that's decades old. I mean, it's before my day. And these guys, their organization has investigators. They have attorneys on staff that does this. Now we have an attorney as well, but it's just a different situation when, the BBB has been investigating issues with their members for as long as I know. And so if we run into a situation and one of our contractors is dropped, let's say if they're dropped by the BBB, well, that kind of sends a signal to us like, okay, well, then they found enough to warrant taking action. And that kind of initiates, it opens a gate like, okay, well, maybe we can at the end of the day, we don't want to get sued. We want to do the right thing, but lawyers, $500, $600, $100 an hour. It adds up, especially, when a lot of these complaints that would come in, like you get kicked out for doing something, that's against the ethical code that you signed when you became a member, you could sue us, even if it's going nowhere. If you got the money, you're going to spend our money to fight this litigation when it's unfounded. And so, I do think we tiptoe around it a little bit too much because we as an organization, I feel like we bring in enough and from our efforts, we do golf tournaments, we do, fishing tournaments and, fundraising efforts. I still feel like we should be ready at the post to fight those things. Again, I'm not an attorney. That's a little bit above my pay grade, even at VP. This is my first year in leadership. I was on the board last year for the previous 3 years. But this is my first year in leadership because, basically you go vice president and then over the course of the next 3 years, I'll become president. But yeah, that's I think what's going on. I don't think we have an issue with any of the end consumers short of them just not knowing about us. The issue, the accountability issue, so to speak, is with our contractors. The contractors that are not yet members because they're like, I don't really know if you guys are just taking my money so I can have that little seal on my website,
And I respect you a lot, by the way, for telling all of that and being transparent. Do you face any pushback in the organization or in your personal life as well for being so transparent? And because I can feel that you are the guy who tells about the issue and you are not soft spoken. Like you tell that this is the thing that we have to deal with. So do you face any pushback in the organization or in your personal life as well because of this habit?
Not in my personal life, but definitely within the a little bit within the organization. Everybody's great. I love everybody that's part of it, but that's not to say that there haven't been awkward moments on conference calls where I'm just like, what are we talking about here, guys? This is just this is not the important issues that I feel like we as an organization need to be delving off into. But again, I kind of go back to, I'm not trying to trash, the organization at all. I love what we're doing, efficacy, here or there, but again, yeah, it's made for a couple awkward moments here and there where they're like, well, we weren't expecting you to really be super outspoken about this. But that's just who I am. And I told them when I agreed to take the nomination, I was like, I'm not doing this for like a plaque on the wall or anything like that. Like I'm coming in with the understanding that we're going to try to legitimately make some change. And if that's not what's going on, let me know because I have better things to do than just jump on these conference calls for nothing, like I want to actually do something. I want to have make my stamp on, hey, look, we were part of this, this bill getting passed for licensing or registration or something. I want to be part of that. And it's not for a vanity project. It's just genuinely, I'm a busy guy. And if we're just going to be doing this whole compulsory going through the motions, like, dude, I'll go sell some more roofs, man. I don't want to do this if that's all this is. If we're just going to do the arbitrary meeting once a month and, we're going to do the golf tournament, we're going to do the conference, we're going to do the fishing tournament. Hey, that's great. I'll still take advantage of those things. But if we're going to be in a leadership, if I'm going to be asked to take a nomination for a leadership position, well, then I want to lock arms with my fellow leaders and do something positive for the industry. And I was very open about it when I accepted the nomination. And like we got great leaders in the organization, and we're definitely mission focused. Obviously, there's opposition to certain things, but that's with anything. I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy. We're dealing with
Absolutely.
10,000 people over the over the course of the state, so it happens.
Yes, I agree. And I have 3 more questions for you, by the way. The first one is, 2 weeks back, someone hired me, a roofer hired me for their website and social media work in Texas. And they applied for the RCAT membership as well. I think I shared that with you in our personal chat. And you guys gave them an objection that your website has listed that you are providing roofing insurance claim assistance as a service as well. And that does not comply with the laws of Texas. Then, even I didn't know that, because I see many roofers, they are doing this stuff, like they are offering insurance claim assistance as a service in Texas, and you just mentioned that it's against the law. So that was something new for them and for me as well as a marketer, and that immediately I noted that down. So I want to ask you, this is just one thing. I think that there are other laws or other things as well that roofers are doing illegally, but they don't know that. They are sharing stuff on social media and they are posting stuff on their website that goes against the laws of Texas specifically. So what are those things besides website, or including website services like insurance claim or listing that?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing wrong, do you feel?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I don't necessarily think it's a multifaceted kind of issue. As far as them not knowing about it, they just need to keep your ear to the ground. I mean, what they're referring to is UPPA, which is the unauthorized practice of public adjusting. This legislation basically prevents or attempts to stop contractors from acting as insurance professionals, because at the end of the day, our job is to notate damage, fix damage. That's it. We can't negotiate insurance claims. We can't negotiate pricing. We can't get up on the roof with an adjuster and say, well, that should be covered under the policy, because I mean, we're not in the insurance business. And so what we're trying to do with RCAT is also make sure that people are compliant, because one of my good friends, I mean, he ended up winning the case, fortunately, but he was being sued for $1 million because he used a word. He used the word indemnify. That's it. He used the word indemnify. That's it. And he won the case, but it went through the motions, and he was worried. He was worried about having to shut his business down and having to start up a new business, because he's like, dude, this is going to bankrupt me. And at the end of the day, RCAT, when we bring people on, that's why I'm saying it's not just a pay to play situation. We are not perfect, but we are doing our best based with the tools that we have to make sure that best practices are going on, and that we're preventing our contractor base from getting into issues where they're also being sued for $1 million. Because on these websites, you can't say things like, we offer insurance claims assistance. Well, what kind of assistance are you offering? Because what that sounds like is that you're going to work with the insurance company to make sure that these things are covered. Well, you can't really say that. Like, at the end of the day, look, I'm a realist, man. At the end of the day, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know the process, but the reality is that now that this law is on the books, when I meet an adjuster on site, I can talk about the damage. I'm like, hey, what are you seeing here? This looks like hail, so on and so forth. This is wind damage, but I can't make the claim that, like, well, you should cover this because of their policy, because I don't know what their policy reads. And even if I did see their policy physically in front of me, I'm not a professional to translate that into what is covered and what is not covered, right? That is for public adjusters, that is for appraisers, litigators, things like that. And so I think that RCAT is not doing this to just kind of beat on their chest like, you need your website how we want it. It's, no, we're helping you. Trust me, man. We're helping you, because if some of these organizations, these watchdog organizations, come on and they start, you're on the map, and there's like, okay, oh, this ABC roofing company over here, they're talking about they're representing clients and they'll help get things approved and they'll do all that. You are 100% you're in violation. And so, yeah, this is not we're just trying to exert our authority. We're just basically saying, like, hey, part of the part of the intake process is that we scrub your website. I mean, we're not going word for word, but we're basically skimming it to make sure that you're not stating outwardly that you are going to assist with claims, because now that legislation's on the books, you're not. I mean, you can say it, but you're putting yourself at risk by saying that. I mean, I would say that, RCAT is the largest roofing trade organization in Texas. And so I would argue that if you're a roofing professional, why wouldn't you want to be part of the largest roofing trade organization in Texas, or even one of your regional chapters? I think that it's kind of one of those things where from the optics of it, if you're not, and the buy-in is low. I mean, the threshold is you have to have ample insurance. You can't have any tax liens. You have to be sponsored by an existing member. You have to be in business X amount of years. And you have to do a 3-part test: practical application, safety, and business administration, just so you kind of know what's going on. You're not coming in here half-cocked, not knowing how to operate a business, using it as your piggy bank, and then you go bankrupt, and then your clients with the warranties are not worth the paper they're printed on. So what I would say is that, in short, I would say that any professional, in my opinion, should want to be part of the largest roofing trade organization in Texas, similar to the Better Business Bureau, right? People are a member of the Better Business Bureau all the time that don't necessarily like the BBB. I don't have anything against the BBB. I think that they're a tried and true place where people go and find contractors and other people for sure. But I reject the idea that RCAT is simply a pay to play and all that jazz. Like, we're doing our best. Obviously, we're bound, by certain legalities, getting sued and things like that. But that's what I want them to know. It's like, you should want to be a member of a trade organization that you represent, in an industry that you represent.
Perfect. Okay, Mike, before this interview, I just ran through your social media and I was on your Instagram profile, and this is something that I am confused about these days as well. And I exactly saw a post that you made about that. So I felt that I should include that in my list of questions, because it can help a lot of roofers and business owners in general out there. On December 4th, 2024, you made a post that you received a phone call from someone that your daughter just had an accident and her car was crashed. And you mentioned that this was the hardest 10-second phone call that you ever encountered with, or that you ever received. And that immediately made me felt that at times we take things for granted. Like, we feel that, okay, these are our kids, or this is my family or my friends. I will say them, I love you, I miss you, or whatever I feel about them later on. But life just hits us with something really big that we cannot handle. So how did you feel at that time, and what was the impact of it in your life?
Well, I mean, obviously, no parent wants to get a call that their kid, fresh behind the wheel, I mean, she hasn't been driving for a full year yet, is in an accident. And I wasn't necessarily talking about the phone call. I was talking about the drive, because the minute I get that call, I was on my way down to Dallas. I immediately turned around and I headed. It was about a 20-minute drive or so. I immediately headed to location, because we have GPS on all the family members. We know where each other's at, and not knowing what the situation is. I mean, it was a rough drive. Just, I mean, I'm not. Police are there, other cars there. It turned out that, I mean, it could have been a lot worse for sure. And the response to that is that, obviously we're even more vigilant about how she's driving and everything like that. But, I'm sure any parent watching this can feel where I was coming from in that moment. I mean, phone call was bad enough, but driving to location without knowing what's going on, it was it was an unsettling feeling. You got your baby girl, and she's fresh driving, and luckily everything turned out. So there was obviously the car's totaled, but cars can be fixed and replaced, but body parts and lives are different.
Yes, and you just said that cars can be fixed, but relationships and body parts and your loved ones, they are important. So do you feel that at times we just surround ourselves with too many things, and we forget that the business can be fixed, the cars can be fixed, the mess at workplace can be fixed, but the stuff at home, the relationships and the relationships with our loved ones, that cannot be fixed if we don't have the chance. So we should do that in time.
100%. What's funny is that as you're mentioning that, my wife and I kind of came to this realization. Since we work together, we're in the business together, we're at home together. So because we're together, all the time, we have stopped making time for us outside of the house and outside of the business simultaneously. And so we've started doing, like date nights and just kind of get out and enjoy each other's company outside of the stresses that come with a business and a household. And it's really necessary. So now, like every week, I plan stuff, just like take it off her plate, and I'll plan stuff, and we'll go out and do something fun, and But yeah, you got to. Like you said, if you don't water it, it ain't gonna grow. Probably the best way I could say it. If you ain't gonna water it, it ain't gonna grow. And so, but yeah, it's a good place.
Thank you.
Come to that realization.
I have questions for how you are working with your wife and how you met her and how you are working with her as a business partner. But I know we are short on time here because we have already spoken for about 1 hour and 6 minutes. So my last question to you is: you went to Nepal a few months back, I guess, and you were hiking there. What was that experience?
That was one of the hardest mentally and physically exerting things I've ever done in my life. It was good. It was good. I'm not complaining. It was just, 9 days worth of hiking up a mountain. And I didn't actually even summit. I made it to high camp, but I was experiencing vertigo and my oxygen level were down to 55%, which is pretty darn low. Even at altitude, You should be no less than 75%. But overall, it was a great experience. I got, I got the experience itself, but I also had, got pictures and just the accomplishment of saying, hey, look, I climbed, one of the tallest trekking peak in the world. Even though I only made it to high camp, that's still 19,200 feet. And I'm just like, I'm good. I'm good at that point. But really, I hit my adventure era late in life. A couple years back, my wife and I flew to Spain with one of the guys that I actually climbed the mountain with. And we did the running of the bulls and the San Fermin, festival. And in October, I'm flying to DC to run a marathon with these guys that I climbed the mountain with. And I'm kind of wishing that I had done this maybe 10 years ago when my body wasn't as creaky as it is now. But it's a good time, man. Now that I have a good team both in the business and at the house, it's on the home front. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Thank you. And how was, if you can answer that real quick, how was the experience of meeting people in the third world countries, and how was that? You just traveled to Nepal.
A culture.
Yes.
Definitely a culture shock. Obviously it definitely makes you appreciate some of the first world problems, so to speak, that we have. Freestanding toilets, refrigeration. It was really sketched out eating meat over there just because of how I was seeing that it was like outside. But it was good overall. There was good food still. I ate ramen basically all the way up the mountain, just to kind of keep liquids in me and whatnot. But everybody was cool. It was a good time, good experience. I'm glad I did it. I don't know if I'm going to be mountaineering and climbing any more mountains anytime soon. I'll probably move my focus onto other types of adventures, but I definitely, I'm glad that I did it. Even though it was, really hard. Just,
Thank you.
A couple times I wanted to quit, and luckily I was with a group of guys. They're like, shut up, keep moving, let's go. And so
actually,
it was good.
I was gonna invite you to Pakistan because we have the second highest peak in the world called K2. But as you said that you are not planning that anytime soon, so I will.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Okay, thank you so much for your thank you so much for your
man.
time, Mike. It was really pleasure interviewing you. Do you have any signing off notes or advice for business owners in general that they should have experiences like this as well?
So as far as like climbing mountains, or just
traveling
general?
the world, or just general experience.
Well, traveling, is for some people and not for others. Generally speaking, I'm kind of a homebody. I used to be out and trying to, move and shake. And now I'm more domesticated. I like being at the house. I like being with my wife. I like being with my kids. But as far as getting out and enjoying stuff, I definitely feel that, we in the roofing industry, especially I'm going to really speak on the guys that are doing things the right way. I mean, it's a hard job, and that's not to take away from any other career or industry, but especially entrepreneurship, it has its highs, it has its lows, and if you let the lows just kind of dig in and you get overly stressed, it can hurt you. It can hurt your mental state. It can hurt your business. So I do think that getting out and enjoying things like that, whether it be going and sitting on a beach or doing like I'm doing and just trying to put myself in possible risk, 55% oxygen at the top of a mountain or having bulls chase you through the streets of Spain. It's good. It basically puts it where, hey, look, I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. I'm enjoying things that, prior to roofing, now I have not only the time, but the financial flexibility to do some of these things. And, it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yes, and it is a blessing, and it requires a lot of courage as well to do race with the bulls. But thank you for your time, and we'll definitely sit down in the end of this year, because I have some other questions for you, and I think that we can produce another great conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Mike. I really wish you the best for the later half of 2025, and just my best wishes are with you. Have a great day.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.